You have no idea how many times I've filmed this intro. I'm rusty. It's been way too long since we vlogged for me to struggle this much. Usually when we vlog and we hang out, I just come to the video and mood read. This time around, we're gonna do something a little bit different because I have a specific theme that I'm following. I have a specific intent with what we're doing today, and this really stems from a place of frustration in the book community, which isn't to speak to anybody. This is also on me. This is on me. And it comes from the fact that the book community is such an echo chamber for the same popular people. The same people are being spoken about and highlighted and hyped up, but it almost builds walls around other authors getting spoken about and acknowledged. So I have specifically hunted down some books that are under-reviewed. That's the number I'm going off of. On Goodreads, if they have 1,000 or less reviews, that is what I'm determining as under-reviewed. Now, in order to put things into context, Great Big Beautiful Life by Emily Henry came out on April 22nd. And it is at 13,000 reviews. All of these books, except for one, there's one that's kind of on the cusp of 1,000. All of these books have been out longer than that, but are nowhere near that amount of reviews. Now, I understand ratings and reviews do feel a little bit different, but for me, for you to review a book is to engage and you to give something that somebody could look to or interact with or base their want to read off of. A rating doesn't do much. A review really guides what I want out of a book. Sorry, can you hear the pup? He's groaning. He's down here, if you can't see him. He doesn't like when I sit next to him and don't give him attention, so that's what's happening down there. Now, let's get into the stack of books that I have because I have a billion errands to run and I really want to get to these books. I'm feeling very excited about talking about all of these, and I've got a good mix of representation and stuff. First up, coming in at 558 reviews and a 3.94 average star rating, I have The Crypt of the Moon Spider. This is set on the moon in a home for the treatment of the melancholy, in which the treatment for melancholy is a small piece of spider silk in the amygdala. It's small, it's spooky, it's very pulp horror, I believe. Coming in at 339 reviews and a 3.75 average star rating, I have The Garden by Newman. Now, this story is set in a garden in which two sisters have always tended to the garden and lived there, but don't know what's happened before the garden, don't know what's outside the garden. This is just their small little ecosystem that they live in. Until one day, they get an unexpected visitor, a young boy. This story is described as being very fairy tale-esque. Next up, coming in at 183 reviews and a 2.92 average star rating, I have The Garden of Earthly Bodies, a story of a woman who has lost her sister, and in that grief, her body starts to change. At 805 reviews and a 3.93 average star rating, we have 40 Acres, a thriller by Dwayne Alexander Smith, a story in which a small sect of land still has slavery. However, it's black men who are the masters. Now, this final book has a 3.87 average star and 1,018 reviews. However, I think it makes it. It's not too far off the 1,000 mark that I set for myself. So I think we can include it, also because I'm just so excited for it, because it's been recommended to me by quite a few people, which is interesting for it to be so under-reviewed. And that is Blood Scion by Deborah Falaye. Now, I'm going into this one without knowing much about the story because it's fantasy. It's YA fantasy. It's very high action. And I want to go into this and experience it at the pacing that the author has set for me without knowing what's to come. those are the books that we will be making it through. And I'm going into this still as a mood reader. And the book that I'm most excited to start with is, I think I really want to do 40 Acres. Something about this one is really calling to me today. I don't know how much I'm going to get through though. I do have to get my nails done and I do have to get my feet done. So there's going to be a bit of sitting, but I have so many errands that need to be ran. And my errands are on the south side of town, whereas the coffee shop I want to go to is on the north side of town. And then my nail place is right in the middle. So I think I'm going to do errands, nails, coffee. The coffee shop doesn't close until 9, so maybe but I am a single mother and I do have to take care of him. So maybe errands. I don't know. We'll see what I'm gonna, I don't know. I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's just get outside. Let's get out of the house. I think once I get in the car and start going, I'll figure out just what I want to do. And also maybe just check the closing times of things to try to organize what I'm getting done today. I'm excited. Oh, no, wait. I forgot one. I was just about to leave. I have an audiobook that we're also going to do this week. And that one is coming in at 141 reviews and a 3.19 average rating. And that is Death Takes Me by Christina Rivera Garza. I wanted a translated fiction on this list because we all know I love me some translated fiction. I love mixing it in. I love adding that bit of diversity. I love translated lit. And the cover of this one is very interesting. I kind of love the cover. I wish the words were a bit smaller or a different color so I could see that background a bit better, but that is what I have. And I do believe this one is a literary mystery. All right, now let's go start our day. for the first book that we picked up for this video, I want to say we're starting off strong. Oh my goodness, we're starting off strong. Now, just one complaint that isn't even the author's fault is that the summary gives away a little bit too much because it's about a 350-page book. I'm at page 106, and they haven't gotten to the plantation that is spoken about in the synopsis. So I wish the synopsis didn't do that, so that I would have at least have had the mystery behind where they're going. But right now I'm at the point in which there's like this boys club of Black successful men, and our main character has just been accepted into this boys club, and you're not really getting to know everybody so much as there's like a leader in the boys club and our main character, and you're kind of you're being given so many like bits and pieces that feel off about the guys in this little Black men's boys club. Now, one of the primary conversations that I think was really interesting was on reparations. So, hold on. Let's see if I can find it. Okay, so the conversation about reparations, it begins with them bringing up, like, mind you, okay, let me set the scene a bit more. Our main character is a lawyer. Sorry, I'm shy. Hold on. So our main character is a lawyer who has beaten one of the best Black male lawyers in a huge case. The best Black male lawyer invites our main character to a little boys' house, club thing, friendly thing. At that club, they're getting into like what is owed, what is owed to you, what ought to be given to you, what you can do as a Black man for the Black community and whatnot. Now, the big male lawyer that our main character beat, that guy works for a lot of white businesses. And it was this discussion of like, why do you work for them and why do you help them in all of these like racist cases? And the guy said, well, if they win, I get a huge payout and I'm able to give money back to Black communities and Black businesses and Black charities. However, if a white person were to be their lawyer, that would never happen. The money wouldn't come to our community, it would stay in their community. Then, of course, they're talking about, like, how would you feel if somebody stole your truck? And then he was like, well, I would want my truck back, like I would need a new truck. Then it goes on and it says, well, okay, rather than just thinking about if your truck was stolen, what if you couldn't afford another truck? What if the loss of your truck resulted in your family living in poverty? And at the same time, the crook who had stolen that truck was able to make his family wealthy. And it's this discussion of reparations isn't just giving back one thing. There is generations that has been affected by something like slavery. So that's like kind of like the weird intonations behind the boys club and how they feel. Mind you, our main character, he doesn't quite feel in yet. He doesn't quite feel a part of the community yet. And I don't know, you can feel that something is amiss. For example, there was that scene where the handyman had broken into his home to get information. And I've got no information at all on Dr. Kasim yet. I'm interested. Right now, my biggest thing is that, like, while things are amiss, what is truly wrong? Like, I don't see them as evil right now. I don't see the boys club as evil bad guys. I just kind of see it as a little in group. I see it as a little rich guy group, but I don't see them as bad. I'm really into it, though. The chapters are like 3 or 4 pages, 2 to 4 pages, and it's speeding by. I just have to get home and take care of my dog. Gotta run to the grocery store first, so I'll check in when I have more to say. Hey, good morning. It's been a couple of days, and I haven't spoken to you in a minute, and I've actually finished a couple of things. Let me put the goods in here first. Hold on. Oh my goodness. Okay, I'm feeling so much better and I can talk to you now. What was I saying? Let's just start over. Actually, now that. Hello, good morning. It has been a couple of days. I haven't talked to you for a minute. Work has been kicking my actual behind, but I have been reading in the meantime. Last time I talked to you, we were halfway through this. I finished this that night. Don't go thinking I haven't talked to you and this didn't get finished. This got finished that night. And no, this was an amazing read. The story really took off from the last time that I spoke to you. And it was one of those reads where I needed to get to the end. And you know how I said I didn't know who was evil, I couldn't quite get a feel on evil, and I couldn't quite get a feel on who was bad? While the characters at the end did evolve into doing gruesome things, and they weren't necessarily good people, and I don't want to say their logic stood up, but there was a point where it was like, I don't want to say it felt real, but it was like, oh no, I've heard people speak like this. I've heard people say these kinds of words. I've heard people have these types of conversations. Like, these are conversations that I've heard a semblance of amongst people who discuss reparations and who discuss ancestry and who discuss the Black struggle and what has come of Blackness. And I think that this going into like the depths of the anger of the Black man and the depths of hiding yourself as the Black man and the depths of what you are trained into understanding. Like I said, I have heard semblances of these conversations. I have. So I think that's kind of what made this work for me. It is very much a thriller. Now, there is something that I do think was interesting in this book, where it's not necessarily a critique of mine, but it is something I saw interesting. So we all know that this story progressed into a sort of plantation type of feel, a recreation of slavery in which white people are the slaves and Black men are the owners, right? And while there were some gruesome scenes, there were a couple of gruesome things, there were a couple of moments of what is the word that I'm looking for? Because I don't want to like spoil anything. The way that women were treated over there was a bit crazy. Like, there were moments where I saw cruelty. However, I think it was interesting that how I and how history understands slavery, this book didn't take it there. Was it awful? Yeah, but it didn't quite take it there. For example, all of the slaves were dressed nice. All of them were clean. All of them were upkept. All of them were pretty. All of them looked nice. That is a huge jump from the way that slaves were kept. So I think that was an interesting choice, first of all. The fact that this was being recreated, but there still was a semblance of like country club that was given to this. And then the other thing that wasn't quite discussed that I wanted more of were the wives. The wives of these men, I just got little glimpses of them. And even like that small moment at dinner with that one wife, and when you read it, you'll know what I'm talking about. But that small moment at dinner, I wanted more of them. I wanted more of all the wives. I wanted more behind the scenes of that. I think that could have been so interesting because we didn't even get much of the husbands discussing their wives. So I think in this realm, it's always so interesting when you think slavery and treating people like animals. How do we treat women? You know, like how are we treating our wives? How are we treating women? Because there's infidelity happening, something crazy, but it's infidelity and these are animals. Just, I think the wives I wanted so much more of. But This was such a great read. This was such a fun read. Very thriller, if you need a new thriller. So it's not delving into concepts and it's not speculative fiction. This is a thriller. It's not here to spark big conversations and make you think. It's here to thrill, and I was thrilled. I've also finished an audiobook yesterday, and that was Death Takes Me by Christina Rincon Garza. This is a very meta story. And it's very literary. Oh, it was so beautifully written. I really love the musings. It's just that I was confused. I was lost. I didn't know what was going on. But I think that's because this isn't audiobookable. I don't think this is audiobookable because when I was reading through reviews, they were talking about footnotes and form and how things were written into it. I think I needed to see what form we were taking when people were talking, because I just got the audiobook narrator speaking. She wasn't telling me if it was a footnote. She wasn't telling me if it was a poem. But the story itself is a very meta story because Garza is in the story. And it's a murder mystery in where it opens up where Garza's going on a run and finds a murdered and castrated man. And then there's a clip of a poem near the body. And other bodies are found. And it's this story of not just the murders, but it also parallels to this idea of like the fragmentation of literature. And it muses through poetry. And it's a very literary book. And it's here to discuss literature. But again, I was confused because there's a lot of second person in here. And there's also a point where Garza has written an essay or is doing a study, and that is a big part of this book. So there's a lot of different types of text in here that I couldn't quite parse out because I was just listening. Beautifully written. I love the concept of what was going on. Literary mystery, discussions of literature, discussions of poetry. So if you're looking for that, I would say grab this. I would say don't audiobook it though, because there were too many points where I literally had to rewind and try to place myself and place who was talking and place what type of literature I was going through or place what was being spoken about. But one of the biggest points that happens in the beginning, just to give you a taste of how this just tickles my brain in the right way. This is translated from Spanish. This is Mexican lit. And there's a point where our narrator is discussing how the word victim, la víctima, is feminine. Like, what does it mean in a language for the concept of a victim to be feminine, for it to be feminized? And then again, to have this story of castration and a stealing of masculinity, and what does that look like? But the notes left behind on these bodies are feminized in that they're written in lipstick or they're written in a blush. Like, what does this mean for you to interact with gender in these ways, and how that to interact with language? Because Spanish is a gender-focused language, and what does that mean for writing and literature and conceptualizing even entire words like victim? Interesting. I thought it was cool. I just couldn't quite get a foothold. That's what I finished so far. Now, I have a bit of time before I have a work meeting, and I kind of just want to take a second because I had a huge project that I had to get done yesterday, and I'm still just coming off of that. I got it turned in early as well, so technically I have a bit of time before I have to pick up my next project. I just have a bunch of EOD submissions, so I technically, since I got something in early, I have some me time. And I have one of those jobs where I just have to sit at the screen and my brain has to be high functioning. So I always tell myself that a big part of my job is being able to like decompress, recompress, because going to bed at night and running to the gym, that isn't fully resetting myself to pick up another big project. So I'm gonna pick up, because I think we have just enough time this morning to read Crypt of the Moon Spider. Me and my coffee are going to sit here. I'm going to open a door, open a window, get some fresh air in here because it's like 75 degrees in Texas right now. It's supposed to heat up to 85, I think, or 87-ish by the end of the day. So I'm just going to enjoy the fresh air that I can and get through Crypt of the Moon Spider. a little bit of a horror novella by Nathan Ballingrud. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Ew. Oh my goodness. Okay. Wow. Oh, I devoured that. That was the perfect level of like, oh, I'm freaked out, I'm grossed out, a little bit of body horror, a little bit of medical horror, a little bit of monster horror. Okay. How do I tell you about it without telling you about it? It's only... It is exactly 100 pages. A tiny little sip of a novel set on the moon, like I told you earlier, and it is set in the Barrowfield home for treatment of the melancholy. And our main character suffers from these black spells. She suffers from a deep sense of depression that she just gets overrun with. And her husband brings her to this Barrowfield home, one of the top treatment facilities, because they use spider silk. Now, how the procedure is described here is they scoop out the bad and replace it with spider silk. A great like conductor for getting rid of the bad parts in a person's brain. Now, you do meet like one other character that lives in the home, and I think it was so interesting because what you learn about him plays into the creepiness that is. I think there's something so horrifying about not knowing what your memories are, not knowing what your actual thoughts are. That's why Shutter Island worked for me. You guys remember Shutter Island? That's why Shutter Island worked so well for me. This one has a little tidbit of that. What are your memories? What is true? What is your own memory? That our main character is fighting. But the happily ever after that we get, this is technically a happily ever after, but that's coming from me. You remember when I told you one of my most favorite happily ever afters of 2024 was Tender as the Flesh? Because technically, and I think technically, this one is a happily ever after. The way that we got to know certain characters, and it jumps through a couple of different people, and you get to know a couple of different people. And when I read stuff like this, I always have to remind myself that this is a novella. It is a very quick bit shoved into a story, and I got everything I needed. I was scared. I was grossed out. I was grossed out. I was grossed out. And I would say body horror and monster horror, because now let me stop there. Body, medical, monster. Those are the horrors that you are getting in here. And yeah, I do think pulp horror, that the darkness of it, the setting of being on the moon, that wasn't really described. Like, I didn't get a look into the moon, but something about the fact that we were on the moon added to the ambiance of fear that I felt. Oh yeah, I can definitely get to work now. Oh, I can do my job so good now. Oh, this is supposed to be part of a series, book 1 of the Lunar Gothic trilogy. If they're all novellas, I think that would be fun. I might look into the next one, but I do need to clock into work. I do have to get some stuff done. I won't talk to you when I start my next book, or I have something to say about something. I have been an absolutely horrible vlogger this week, but I still finished 2 more books since the last time we talked. One of them I have a lot to say, one of them I have a little bit less to say, but let's start with the less and make our way to the more. I finished The Garden by Newman. This book was atmospheric, dystopian, mostly vibes, a little bit of plot. This was very much an existing within this garden, and for most of the book, all I could think was, why am I here? What am I doing here? Why, what is the point? But I think when you get dystopian novels, there's such a big why, where, and how that you usually get throughout the story. With this one, you have to kind of set aside those dystopian expectations in order to enjoy the atmosphere. I was frustrated for a moment because I wanted some answers, I wanted some explaining, I wanted some scene setting, I wanted some world exploration, I wanted some world explanation, and I wasn't getting any of that. So I spent a lot of time frustrated, but when I was able to put aside my frustration and actually just sit with being within this story and sit within this garden and experience these 2 sisters together, I had a better time. But with that said, I think the fact that I have to put aside a want makes me feel a little bit iffy about this book. It very much felt like I had popcorn for dinner. I love popcorn, #girl dinner, but I can't come into that meal hungry. I can't come into that meal wanting. I have to come into it with girl dinner mindset. Come into this with girl dinner mindset and you'll enjoy it. I think the setting was lovely. I think the sisters were lovely. I think it was just an inoffensive read. It was just inoffensive. I don't know who I would recommend this to. This is a difficult book to recommend, I think, but give it a shot if you want atmosphere. If you love a book with atmosphere and you can put aside your other ones just for the atmospheric element of it, this one is your book. Let's get to the other book that I have finished. The Garden of Earthly Bodies by Sally Oliver. This was a whole lot of me. This one worked for me. It's not gonna work for everybody because, so let me set the scene. You open up with Marianne. Now Marianne has just lost her sister. She's waking up in the middle of the night screaming. She's crying through her sleep. She's struggling with grief and PTSD. She doesn't want to label it PTSD though. She would hate if I said that. But she's really struggling through all of this. And in that struggle, out of nowhere, she feels a hair growing on her back. When she tries to pull it, it feels like it's connected to her spine. So she goes to the doctor about it. The doctor does a few blood tests and calls her back. And the doctor calls her back and like, hey, you should come back today. She has more than one hair, is what the doctor has seen. And the doctor says that this is the physical embodiment. Her body has started reacting to the stressors of her grief. So the hairs, it's a thick black hair growing out of her back. That, the doctor says, that is the reaction to these emotions that she's working through the emotions that she's not working through. But lucky for her, there is an experimental facility for people just like her. And Marianne accepts, goes to this facility. And that's when it just gets so funky. But on the other side of things, you're getting these flashbacks into Marianne and her sister when they were young, when her sister gets cancer, when her sister has complications and surgery. And you get all of these emotions of just grief and that sibling rivalry, that one-sided sibling rivalry, the envy, the jealousy that really sits in sisterhood, and the insecurity that comes with being the lesser liked sibling, and just the family dynamics that revolve around all of this. And then you go between these very heavy and heartfelt flashbacks into the past, and then you come back into the present, into this weird facility with this lady growing big black hairs out of her back. It is that perfect fine line between weird literary fiction, that subgenre of just women losing their ish, and that general fiction feel of I'm here to think and muse. It had that feel in like the perfect way. And you get those like, you know what really scratches my brain in like the weirdest way, and I hate to admit this? When people who write literary fic write a sex scene. I don't know what it is that just scratches my brain. The way intimacy is dissected in literary fiction does everything it needs in my head. I marked this scene though. Don't worry, it's not a sex scene. It's just so that you can get a feel of the writing. Just a couple paragraphs. Marie's illness had drained her, but Marianne suspected something ultimately worse lay behind her own feelings of ennui. It was a powerful notion of emptiness, one that was tied to this place. She had come to the conclusion that every novelty of life could well be exhausted while she remained here, worn down to nothing through endless recurrence. Was it merely that her responses had broken down now the panic of the last few weeks had subsided? It was more than just an aftershock. It was a resoundingly defeatist mindset, one that might have been inherited and could well be permanent. She thought then of her mother, how her existence confirmed that one could live in close proximity to despair without ever conquering it. Heather was depressed, but she had almost accepted this as her default state. She was only occasionally still outraged she felt this way. It was a revolt from the deep, the part of her that resisted sedation, that routinely exposed itself before retiring, exhausted by its efforts. The sun was bleeding into the tow path at this point. There was barely any light left to see her thoughts. What a strange idea, Marianne thought. But then they grew louder. Once she had less light, they stirred and parted quickly, leading into a rapid succession of ideas that she could hardly contain without panicking. It was like they had been recently oxygenated, given too much life, too much import. She placed her palm on the bark of a tree by the river and forced herself to slow down and sighed for her mind to exhale. She was filled in that moment with a huge amount of remorse and affection for the people she shared her life with. Her parents were braver than she was. She was despicable for thinking of them as futile, provincial people without dreams or drives. Their courage was bound up in their present circumstances, in remaining sane and together for the sake of Marie and herself. Something had ruined them around the time of Marie's birth, a desolation like no other, something wildly atavistic and removed from their former selves. They were still living in the aftermath. It had never quite passed into a period of reconciliation, but what Marianne had witnessed was something bearably close, bearable enough for relations to continue. Perhaps they should have parted years ago and saved one another the stagnation of living half in fear and half in bitterness, longing for what lay beyond one another, but too weary to explore new terrain. The pattern was periodically broken by an accidental retreat into intimacy, snatches of sudden, exhilarated intimacy. Is this it? Are we ourselves again? The illusion was swallowed up by time, a relapse into past pain and the memories they still shared of Marie's first years. That's just a couple paragraphs, but the way that even Marianne is able to explain her parents' relationship, her mother herself is constantly self-medicating, constantly escaping, constantly going to her room, constantly trying to remove herself from what's going on, and always has. And so I just think it's so beautiful. Now, I will say, in the same way that a lot of the literary fiction stories of women losing their ish end, this one gave me one of those endings where I was like, okay, what the heck? Had no idea where that came from, but it worked for me. A lot of the times when I get these literary fiction women books, I feel very outside of the feelings, but this one really brought the feelings to me because I'm not a sister. I'm not. I have a younger brother. that I'm not close with. So being able to be a part of that sister relationship and really feel like I understood Marianne so deeply, chef's kiss. I think this was well done. Underhyped. I would say that this one definitely falls into the underhyped, and I would love if it got more interaction on Goodreads. We're on our last book of the vlog. We're on the last book. Now for this last book, I have both audio and physical because I'm so excited for this one. This book was recommended to me by multiple subscribers. And honestly, if I don't like it, it's beef with all of y'all. If I don't love this book, it's on site. Don't catch me out in Austin, Texas. Because I'm so hyped up. And I'm hyped up to the point I've kept my eyes off of it. I've kept my thoughts off of it. You already know what it is. It's Blood Scion by Deborah Falaye. Give me a black YA fantasy. It's been too long. I haven't started it yet. I'm gonna go take him out and I'm gonna go get in a little bit of a dibble dabble into the audiobook, but I don't know what I'm gonna do. We'll see how the audiobook narrator is. The reason I have physical and audio is sometimes the narrator just doesn't hit for me, and I just wasn't risking it with this one. I was not going to risk it. I need this to be perfect. And if I'm not on the edge of my seat, you will be hearing from me. You'll be hearing from me. And I love that I have an audiobook because usually I get in a nice long morning, early morning type walk. And I just think this will be like, if I can get in a good chunk done tonight and like at least get halfway through, tomorrow's walk will be great. The audiobook is 15 hours though, which is confusing for a 370 page book. That feels a bit wrong, but I'm not gonna ask any questions. I'm just excited. I'm excited. I have been in a weird YA slump recently and I need a good one. And it's black, so start. Start. I am only going to say this once. I'm not going to say any names. If you recommended me this book, count your days. Count your days. Count your days. I am broken. I am hurt. I am shocked. I am appalled. My pearls have been clutched. My jaw is on the ground, bamboozled. I am upset. I am enraged. I am infuriated. Dumbstruck, dumbfounded. Somebody has come into my home and hit me with. That is what I have experienced with this book. I have experienced the book version of I will give you something to cry about. I'm not going to tell you what's it about. I'm not going to tell you what this book is about, go read it. The audiobook was amazing. I finished it off reading it at home. I don't want to tell you anything. I'm going to give you an out of context paragraph. Completely out of context paragraph. So you can just feel some feelings. I know what it feels like to be robbed of something so precious to you, to feel helpless, broken, like you are not in control of your own body. These people, they thrive on taking power over our minds, our bodies, our emotions. They think because we are girls that we are something to be preyed upon. They are wrong. We are not helpless. We are not broken. Despite what scars they leave behind, our bodies are our own. Everything we feel, everything we are belongs to us and us alone. Yes, we are girls, but we are not prey. Tonight, we are alive. Thank you for joining me for this vlog. 10 out of 10. 5 stars. Give me the sequel. Give me the sequel. Give me the sequel. Give me the sequel. You want to see the cover of the sequel? Look at this. Ah! It doesn't come out yet. That's the only thing I can tell you when reading this book. I am on the doorstep knocking when that sequel comes out. I'm there. I'm opening hours. That ending. The feelings I am feeling. The feelings I felt at the beginning. The feelings I felt at the end. Like, how dare? How? The way that I was reading it, let me show you how I was reading the ending. Now I know he damn well lying. Ain't no mother bit. I can't do it. I can't do it. I gotta do it. Oh, I can't do it. If you don't put your hands up, ain't no way. That's how the ending was going for me. That's how the ending was going for me. Read it. Oh, read it. Read it. Read it. Check the triggers. The triggers are not for on-page scenes. It's more for like closed-door references to those triggers. You don't experience it out. When you check the triggers, they are ones that I usually cannot handle, but I could handle this one just because, again, it was handled in a way that was very closed door. Love, amazing. On the screen, I'm gonna put up a little card where I am organizing from, on the top of this card, you're going to see the books in order of how many reviews they have, how many people are interacting with them. And then underneath that, you're gonna see my order of least favorite to most favorite. We didn't read any bad books though, which feels great because a lot of the books that I've been getting frustrated recently have had tens of thousands of reviews. So it's good to know that the underrated books are where it's at, really. Please go read some of these books if any of them stood out to you. Please, 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 please give back to the book community by branching out, trying authors, walking through bookstores and grabbing things that you otherwise wouldn't, giving new authors a chance, and looking up new names. I enjoyed this. I think we're gonna keep this when I amass my next little stack of underrated, under-reviewed books. Please let me know in the comments. If you comment to talk about Blood Scion, make sure your comment just has like spoilers or some sort of way so people know not to read your comment. If you want to talk about Blood Scion or you want to talk about any of these, please, 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 I need to talk about this because I also can't tell you anything that happened in this book because I don't want to give away anything up, even like from like page 20. I don't want to speak on what happened because you need to just You need to just live this out. This was fun. I hope you're reading good books. I hope you're picking up good things. And if you're not reading good books, I hope you're not beating yourself up about it. I am gonna talk to you next time.